And welcome to the ARC Hive Podcast, where we explore the art of our individual journeys and the strength of the hive that holds us together. I'm Amy Rost, and I believe that life isn't meant to be navigated alone. Here we dive into conversations that bring us closer to ourselves, to each other, and to the communities that lift us up. This is a space for real stories, honest reflections, and meaningful connection. Whether you're in a season of transition, seeking deeper relationships, or simply craving conversations that inspire growth, the Hive is for you. Because when we come together, we grow stronger. Welcome to the Archive. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here today, and I am so excited for our guest. Welcome, Claire Sparrow.
Oh, I'm excited too. I am so honored to be invited to speak to your listeners and to have a conversation with you. I hope there'll be something valuable to share.
Oh, there will. And let's, because they probably can hear that maybe she's kind of an honorary Canadian, everyone, but she might not quite sound Canadian. So, Claire, where are you? Where are you
Oh my
located?
gosh. I love the idea of being an honorary Canadian. I really love it. I feel that for sure. So I am actually located in the north of England, so in West Yorkshire, so land of the Brontes, and it's beautiful. But I'm actually from Scotland, and I'm from the northeast of Scotland, and I have been in England for 21, well, probably more years, 20 plus years, let's say. And I'm married to a Canadian who I met in Scotland. And I'm sorry, Canada, because I stole him away and he never went back.
Well, and I think when Claire first met, I think I brought you a loonie or a toonie.
Yes, you did. We still have it. They have a like little special tin of coins in it. Yeah, we still have it.
So I love so we're going to talk today about a little bit how Claire and I met, a little bit about Claire's journey and that the community that she's building. And we are, going international, going across the pond, as they would say, and really diving into, this community piece because Claire does community so well. She's a Pilates studio owner. She's a Pilates educator. She's got so many things going on in the background. She's like the lady of many projects, like I.
We are definitely cut from the same cloth. That is for
Right? And she's also the mom of 3 boys. She's a
I
busy
am.
mom. But we chatted just a little bit offline before we started, and talking about the season we're in and how it's busy, but talking about too how, you know, community is such an important piece of it. And we don't always talk about how we create community because it's different for everyone. So maybe we'll kick it off, Claire. Let's tell us a little bit about you, what you do, who you're for, all the good things you've got going on, so people can really get a really taste of what's going on over there in England.
Oh my gosh, so many things. Like, definitely, as you say, I am the woman of many projects, and the through line is community and connection, really. So it doesn't matter that it might look on the outside that there's lots of different things going on. The through line is bringing people together and giving whoever I'm working with, whether it's a Pilates student teacher or a seasoned teacher or a woman with pelvic floor dysfunction, I'm bringing them together to give them hope and optimism. And a few years ago, as you know, I wrote a book that became a bestseller in like less than 12 hours, The Hope for Your Pelvic Floor, which
Very
was
good book. Very
really
good book.
around giving the information and the tools to empower women to make educated choices. And it's the same idea whether I'm bringing women together to learn to teach Pilates. It's always about this openness for sharing and learning together, rather than a hierarchical approach of, I know everything, I'm the ego over here just going to boss and tell you and it be my show. It's so much more about meeting together and the collective. And when you talk about Hive, I was smiling so much when you shared your intro to the podcast today, because I'm working with a designer at the moment. We're doing some rebranding of my studio in Leeds. And one of the things that I brought to him was the idea of the hive and coming together for that collective purpose, that there is
Mm,
so much to gain and learn from the togetherness than the
yes.
divide. And that
Yes.
is how I run my businesses. It's how I educate. It's how I share the knowledge with the women that I work with. So breaking it down, I am a teacher trainer. I travel the world to teach and educate for Polestar Pilates. I'll be in New York in July. I'll be in China in September. So I'm doing that. And I teach also out of my studio, Chapel Allerton Pilates in Leeds, where it's a community
Mm,
centered studio, and it's people centered, whether it's my team who I cultivate over time, or the clients that we cultivate together. And even in the business model, that there's a community and a shared um, vision and actioning of that vision of the studio. And then I have an online membership called Whole Body Pelvic Health. And again, we have a community aspect of that, where the women come together, and the relief that I see in a group of women when one woman holds their hand up and says, oh yes, I leak when I run, and actually doing this has really helped. It didn't happen overnight, and it has helped over time consistently. And that is just massive, having those conversations,
mm.
opening up, and knowing you're not alone. um
And I think that is such I teach that in teacher training as well, but I speak to them and to clients too, like you were never the only one thinking the question, or like, is it
Ever.
just me? Because it's never just you. And what we can, when we put words and use our voice to express these things, we can actually hear, then one, we're not alone, which is like, oh, thank goodness.
Because we're
And
seeking community in that shared experience.
totally. And then two, okay, let's talk about this. What have you tried? What have you tried? What works for you? What didn't work for you? We start to get all of these resources that we then can start to take for what we need ourselves on our journey. And it's almost like it is magic, right? And I love that you talked about your Pilates studio as well, because if you see Claire's studio, and we'll tag all of this in the show notes so that you guys can check it out, it very much has a community feel. And it isn't about, like, it isn't the hierarchy. It isn't like I'm here. And I always say that I'm not here. We're all just like here. And
Yeah.
maybe I've been at it a little longer than somebody else, but I'm just a few steps ahead. I'm not above. I'm just a step or two ahead.
And we're continually mastering. Like, even if we just take it to the practicality of Pilates, we're still doing it every day for forever. I started doing Pilates when I was a teenager, and I'm still doing it in my mid 40s and will do forever, because every time we are still mastering, we're still practicing. If you think of like a black belt in whatever martial art, that black belt's doing the same exact exercises, movements, form, as the white belt, as the one that has not really begun yet. They're just deepening and mastering more and more.
And it's a practice and it's a journey. Like, like no 2 days feel the same in my body for Pilates. And again, I just think having that community support and resource really, it just elevates all of us.
Yeah, and I think that it also comes back to, we were chatting a bit before we came online together, that there are stages and phases, there's pockets or seasons, as is commonly said, of life where if, I'm hands up, I'm menopausing
Oh.
hard. I mean, oh my gosh. And this was not in my scope of reference until I was there. And then I needed a community of women to talk to me about it. We need to talk about these things. It's what I've created with Pelvic Health. I have a free monthly Pelvic Health cafe where we just all gather on Zoom and we chit chat and we share things that we're discovering. And it's not about me teaching, leading, being an expert. It's about me creating a space where women can come together, and in that space, the collective knowledge, the power and the energy in that is phenomenal. And that's what we're all seeking. Yes, we're talking about menopause or pelvic health, but it goes to everything in the different phases. As mums with kids going off to university, I mean, that's a whole other world.
While we're in menopause,
Yeah,
that
I mean,
was a
who'd
bit of an
find
error.
that? Oh my gosh, the roller coaster of it all.
Of it all. Well, and I love that, let's back it up a little even further. Like, how did you get to pelvic floor health and Pilates?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, Pilates, I just did forever. I was a young dancer. We did what they call body conditioning. I didn't know until much later on that that thing had a name, and it was Pilates. And I was very blessed that when I did my degree program in dance, we had a full Pilates studio. And so I was able to do that. I recovered from horrible injuries to my knees in the Pilates studio. So I ended up doing essentially an apprenticeship in the studio just because it was the only thing I could do every day instead of my dance program. And I knew after that, because when I went back to dance and I was straight into rehearsals and I had to pick up choreography really quickly, and it was challenging, and I'd had 9 months of no dance but only Pilates. And it was palpable in that studio, not just that I could feel that my movement and my expression was way beyond what it had been before. My classmates could see the difference as well. So I knew there was some power in that. And at that point, I knew for sure I needed to train to teach. It took me some other kind of steps to get to that point, but I did eventually get into my teacher training. And then the pelvic health piece was really from my own experience. I had an experience of separated abdominal muscles. I then found that I had a pelvic organ prolapse. There was all of these things that had happened that I felt quite aggrieved about. I felt like I'm a Pilates teacher. I was a dancer. These things don't happen to people like me, except they especially happen to people like me. That was a challenging time because I had to admit a vulnerability. It felt very difficult to admit that.
Yeah.
And the bias was very much on doing strength-based exercises. So just keep doing Kegels, squeezing your pelvic floor. That's the only option. But what I found was it actually made it worse. And oh my gosh, I mean, I'm a why person. When you do these assessments, so what's your personality type and all that, I'm a questioner, 100% a questioner. I need to know why. I'm not going to be satisfied with just because, or Joe said we do it like this. That's not a good answer for me. I want to know, but why? What difference is it going to make? Is there an alternative? Why was that decision made in the first place? So I was like, a dog with a bone. I was not going to let this rest. So I did loads of training, loads of research. I pulled all the studies on pelvic floor exercises and was staggered, absolutely staggered at the results. The main studies like the Poppy trial, for example, which many people will know about, the Poppy trial, it's only based on the assumption that the pelvic floor muscles are weak. So it doesn't entertain other options whatsoever.
Factors.
So they only do strength-based exercise and they assess for that. And then in the results, they've kicked a load of people out because they had pain or other things going on. So they reduced the sample size, and then the results are less than clinically significant, except then worldwide, because they changed the question and they made it seem like the pelvic floor strengthening exercises did help. They just then recommend that right across the board. So obviously I was not happy about that. And I thought, well, as you so beautifully said, it's not possible for me to be the only one with this issue in this question. So I had to speak out and I had to do the work and I had to get it out there, which is why, being severely dyslexic, I wrote a book, obviously. And I had, because I had to get that message out there. It was so deeply important. I was enraged. So I had to get that message out there.
This
I
is Claire's
feel
passion, and
comfortable.
she is so good. So good. But I think, you know, about like saying that, being able to say that, I experience this, does anybody else? The studies don't fit in. And I certainly find this coming into like, I've got 4 kids. I had 2 at the same time. Like my body's been through a lot. I don't fit into all the studies, right? Like there was like no 2 women's journeys are exactly the same. So
Because as
don't put
many
us in that container that it's all the same.
And also, as many of us as there are on the planet are variations on the theme, because there literally is none, which is part of the problem that arises because people want things to be reputable and to have science behind it and to have studies and research and evidence based. Except, how do we evidence base this? Like, really, how do we evidence base it? We can't,
You
because
can't, it's hard to take a measurement of the
you can't have a sample because all of the people in the sample are different. We could all teach if we said, okay, well, we're going to take 10 exercises and 10 teachers and 10 different clients with each teacher, and we all teach them. We are each teaching them in a different way.
100%.
Even that, it just is very, very difficult. So what I believe is that we can transfer the research from other areas in the body. We can look at, there's a concept called biotensegrity, and if we understand that and we apply it, it has massive significant results for women and also for all of us, whatever you're doing and dealing with. There's the biopsychosocial element of it. Pelvic floor is affecting the mental health and the ability of women to show up in life the way that they want to, whether it's in business or as a mum or a granny or in their workplace. It's
Yeah.
huge.
And I think, also as a Pilates teacher and studio owner, I see this every day in women, and the, not, it does affect them. And then again, depending on what their journey has been to that point, I know in Canada, like I can't believe pelvic floor health isn't covered.
Oh, it's appalling.
Right? Like it's like, oh, interesting. Because I think it was perhaps the other way it might be covered.
Yeah,
So I know women then struggle to access the appropriate tools to help them. And
yeah,
that, also, I think, probably the power of hearing it in community too is that, they start to realize I don't actually have to accept this.
Yeah. That acceptance piece is absolutely huge, because what started to happen for me is women were coming to me, and I was working with lots and lots of women who were coming in and they were just told, actually by a third party, to accept it. This is your age. I was told, well, this is to be expected. You had 3 children. People are literally being told just to accept it because of age, menopause, blah, 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 all of the things. And actually, you don't have to accept it. You can ask for more. And when women come together, they have a collective power and shared strength to be able to go in and ask for more.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
huge. We have it in the UK where, and it may well be the same in Canada, where you can see a different doctor for each area of your pelvic floor.
Oh, I don't think so. Not here.
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. So you would go and be like, why would you see a different, why would you see it all as separate? Like you've got an anterior, maybe you've got a rectocele where your rectum is prolapsing into your vaginal wall, and then you have urinary incontinence, and so you're going to see somebody different for each of those things.
Oh, maybe in that scenario, yeah, you're right. There might be different. But again,
Talk to each other. Get real.
it's all connected.
Hello.
But I think that's a little bit of how, just in healthcare, and I've got a background, I worked in healthcare. We've really lost taking care of the whole person.
Yeah.
And even like I've got a kid who's got a rare disease. Let me tell you, someone to look at the whole person is like a continual advocacy that never ends. And I think that's really sad for women, even here, like at menopause, like I can't, in the US, if I came in with symptoms, my doctor would send me to an OBGYN. In Canada, not getting to an OBGYN likely. Like it's just like who do we get to actually look at like hormone health, even like, and have these conversations? Because I think these conversations have been very dismissive to women. Oh, it's just like that for now, or you had twins, like it'll what do you expect? Like they are, you're kind of told that this is just the path, and it's like if we don't if and what I love what you're doing is you're giving them the information and the education to go in and say, I am not okay with this, because I feel like that is really, as women at middle age or new moms, you have to go in and say, I'm not okay with this.
Yeah.
And I'm not leaving until I get like, we got to do something.
And it's difficult because at this point, certainly in the UK, the bias is still towards download the squeezing app and do that daily, and that's the solution. I believe we still need to be stepping up and saying, I'm not satisfied with that, even although we're not going to be referred somewhere that's going to actually provide useful help necessarily. I mean, if someone's got a grade 4 prolapse, then yes, they are going to need to go for some support, but it we need to speak up so that things can change. People say to me often, are you going to do research? Are you going to go to the top? Are you going to go to the government? Are you going to do this and you're going to do that? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I am going to work from the ground. We are going to do this together. One voice, my voice on its own, it's not enough. We need to collectively start to hive.
I was going to say, you need to hive.
Exactly. It's so important.
Yeah. And so let's switch a little bit more now to the hive and the collective. Has there been any challenges in forming community around perhaps a tricky topic?
Massively. Massively.
Can you share a little? Because I think, Claire, this is so important for people to hear. Because what I hear so many times is, I don't know, I don't have a community. I don't know how to form a community. I don't know. And actually, I think the other thing we're hearing now is, I don't know how to be in community.
Oh, yes, because and COVID made a big deal out of that, didn't it?
Huge, huge.
Huge. Because we forgot how to actually literally be physically in rooms with people, how to interact with people. So, oh my gosh, it's been really, really interesting because you and I can have a conversation right now, as we're doing openly about pelvic health and life and everything. We are not anomaly. I know.
A
We are
minority,
used.
probably.
Yes, there we go. We'll go with that.
That's hard for a Scottish lady to say.
Exactly. So we're unusual in that. This
Yeah.
is not commonplace. And because the bias is that your pelvic floor muscles are weak, people feel like, well, I'm doing those exercises. Maybe I'm just hopeless. Maybe I'm just weak all over. Maybe it's just me. And so they don't want to have those conversations because they've beat themselves down so much. It's really, really difficult to see the light, to see that it's possible. And then we're not having any conversation. So to then come into a physical space and talk to other women, it has been probably 3 years, I think, of trying to get people in the room together to talk about it. And we have had handfuls of people in the room. And what I tried out, because I was determined, I tried out Zoom. I tried out to see if maybe we would bring more people together if there was a barrier between
And they were in their comfort of their own space.
comfort of their own home, and there's a little bit of, well, you don't have to say anything. You could put your camera off if you needed to. You could just leave if it felt
You could just
uncomfortable.
listen. Yeah.
Game changer.
Yeah.
Absolute game changer, because
Yeah.
we have loads and loads and loads of people come from all over the world. We have Canada, we have America, we have Japan, we have England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. We have lots and lots of people come and join it now. What I did right from the beginning, though, was I set up a mission, a vision, and a guide for these sessions, because I remember feeling the vulnerability of talking, and I can only be here because I've done that work and I've come through it and I'm empowered. If you're not there yet and you're seeking some support, there needs to be something that holds you safe in that community space. And that has been extremely helpful. So writing the mission and the vision, what it's all about, the Pelvic Health Cafe, because I think that's a good example. And then we do, every time we meet, they put a little emoji in the chat box to say that they agree. We bring it up every time. Look at our mission. Do you agree? Is this why you're here? Is this what you're looking for? Emoji, emoji, emoji. And then we also have a how to be in this space. And we ask people to, if a topic comes up that they don't want to participate in, they don't want to be called upon to talk about, they just put the little, you have the little emojis that you can put up. They just put a little heart emoji on their screen, and then we know to look after them, to hold space for them, but not to pull them up to talk about a specific topic. And it works really well. And then we ask people, really feel that it's more vulnerable for the people speaking if there's somebody there with their camera off. So if they feel like they can't have their camera on, then we ask them to come back another time when they feel ready. So they've still been there, they've seen the mission, they know what it's about, and they're just maybe not ready yet. Come back next time, because we're here every month. And
Yeah.
then they understand, because if somebody's there, like an interloper, somebody on the edge, it can make the others in the group not speak. out.
Yeah, but I think like Claire, like what a great example of leadership to really guide them through how to show up and be in community. Like this is how when you gather women around this really important topic, it's really clear for them that one, it's safe and they have many options. They still have choices, even though it may whether they're ready to fully invest and share their full story or not, they have options. And they also have, like, I love that you sort of give them like little stepping stones. Like,
Yeah.
because most of the time for most women, what we tell ourselves, the fear in our heads is way worse than what it is if we actually just pipe up and say it. And I don't like discredit that, in that it does take a little bit of time. But when we get to a point where we've had the example and really held in a safe space, then it does give many, many more women the courage to speak
Yeah.
up. And I commend you for that. That's absolutely, absolutely beautiful.
And the other thing we often have is, well, I have a series of questions so that there sometimes we come and it's people like it's often we have the same people coming every time, and so it's easy to begin. People
Right.
just want to share something exciting that they've learned or discovered, or a question for the group. And I also have little topic questions, little ways of, I suppose you might call them icebreakers,
Like
ways
breaking the
to.
ice.
So we have, things like, what's your favorite refreshment that doesn't aggravate your pelvic floor? So, we had a whole conversation about a specific homemade tea that then we shared the recipe afterwards. And it was really a great way to open up, because our food intake, our diet, our what's going on, what we consume has a big impact on our pelvic health. So even although it wasn't a what's going on with your pelvic floor this week question, it was an indirect way in to that.
And it's an invitation still, like with safety, right? Oh,
Correct.
I love that. And I think what a great resource, and like, really taking care of the whole woman. It isn't
Yeah,
just our pelvic floors. This affects all of our whole being, body,
it
mind, and spirit, right?
absolutely does.
Yeah, yeah. So let's just to wrap a little, let's circle back to how you and I met. Because everybody might be thinking, how did these two know each other? Other than she's really half Canadian in my eyes.
I know. And my boys, bless them, like they grew up in Yorkshire and obviously Canadian. My husband's from Windsor, so it's like right on the border with Detroit. So we've got like, we're watching the hockey, but we're also into the American football. So, and my eldest, he plays American football for a team here. And then of course Scott coaches the baseball team out here. Like it's all going on. And then I have to teach them how to roll their R's so that they can still be a bit Scottish. Oh my goodness.
But we met through Pilates is actually how we met, right?
A way back, I was trying to remember when this actually was, when we did that, well, when you did the 100 handshake.
Yes. Yes.
Do you
I
know when
think
that
like
was?
2017 or
Oh
18.
my God, that's crazy. So the thing with the 100 handshake was you reached out and you asked if I would do this thing that you were doing. And I kind of really didn't understand what the 100 bit, like the actual practical thing was. But what stood out and still stands out, and it makes so much sense, was that you were, for no other reason than just the desire to build and connect community in our profession. You just wanted to do this 100 handshake. And I was like, whatever it is, I'm in, because you're my kind of girl. I loved it. Anything that is connecting without bias, connecting in our community with just love and care and nurture at the heart of it, rather than I trained here and you trained there and da, da, da. You just opened doors right across, and I absolutely loved that. It was so clever too.
I think the other piece of that it's important to talk is, you have to be willing to say yes too, right? Because not everybody was willing to say yes. So it really became it really was just to connect. It was just to meet people, and the 100 is something I think most of us can agree that um, we all do. We all do it as part of our practice. I'm not saying we all do it the same. We all might do it different, and that's fine too. But it's at least, it's a starting point.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an access point
Yes.
for everybody in our community. And
Yes.
I mean, I can't imagine a reason why you wouldn't say yes. Um, and that's just who I am. And we
Yes.
resonated
Yes.
straight away. We resonated.
Yes.
And I guess we must have met. Did we meet through uh,
29.
coaching?
Well, well, I think we met through agency and then we met at PMA in Monterey.
I mean, that was the best ever. I think about our time together in Monterey so often, and we
I
were
do
just
too.
talking about it recently.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes I just think in life we find kindred spirits, and those people that, even although we're millions of miles away from each other and we don't necessarily see each other or speak all the time, our hearts are together, our belief systems are so similar, and the stage of life we're at, and all of the
Yeah.
things.
All the things.
Exactly.
But I
So
think, the community piece, like I hope our listeners really take away, also be open to saying yes to maybe something that's a little different or feels uncomfortable, but saying yes into opening yourself to maybe a different community than what you've known before. And never
absolutely.
know what the potential could be.
Well, it's huge. I mean, I said yes and joined the agency, the community where we met, which
Yeah.
was way outside of my comfort
Yeah.
zone.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was signing up to, but I was at a point where I knew I needed a different community. I needed a different circle of influence. And it was a huge turning point, and there's friendships and relationships that have grown out of that community that I couldn't imagine being without,
Yeah.
you being one of them. So I 100% agree. Saying yes and exploring is really, really important.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to you're the lady of the why. Be curious about, what could you learn from that community. So thank you so much, Claire, for this wonderful conversation. We will put all the links so you can find Claire. I highly recommend her book. It is outstanding, and she is a real champion for community, pelvic floor, and Pilates. And I'm so grateful that you said yes to this today.
Of course. I mean, it was an easy yes, an easy yes. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to your listeners for listening to our conversation as well.
So thank you so much for being part of the archive today. I hope this episode left you feeling inspired, connected, and reminded that you are never alone on this journey. If this conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your takeaways, tag me on social media, and let's keep this hive buzzing. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and invite someone you care about to join us. Until next time, keep honoring your arc, leaning into the hive, and showing up for yourself and your community because together we are stronger. This is the ARC Hive Podcast. See you soon.